Hello everyone, you are watching a snippet of the Countdown program from November 3, 2022. Today is Thursday. See the full version of the program on the Patreon resource. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. Against the backdrop of the expectation of an imminent battle for Kherson, Russia is increasingly hinting at the nuclear option of the war with Ukraine. Zaporozhye NPP is de-energized again. Power units 5 and 6, which are in a hot state, are transferred to a cold state. Fuel for the operation of diesel generators and the mode of complete de-energization of the ZNPP remains for 15 days. The countdown has begun. Energoatom reports and appeals to the world community to assist in the withdrawal of Russian troops from Energodar and the return of the ZNPP under Ukrainian control. The New York Times, citing its sources, reported that among the Russian generals there were talks about the use of nuclear weapons against Ukraine. Moreover, these discussions have not yet been brought to the level of Putin. The US government became aware of this in mid-October, and the discussions themselves, according to the publication, took place recently. The publication notes that the very fact of such discussions indicates how disappointed the Russian generals are with the results of the ground operation, and that Vladimir Putin's threats to use nuclear weapons may not be just words. Today, November 3rd, at a meeting of secretaries of security councils of the CIS countries, the head of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Nikolai Patrushev, made a number of statements reflecting the general mood in Putin's inner circle. In his opinion, the US and the UK are recruiting international terrorists to take part in hostilities on the side of Kyiv. The West oversees the creation of a dirty bomb by Kyiv, and does not want to look for ways of dialogue acceptable to all with Russia, instead trying to isolate it. And the West is preparing textbooks with a distorted view of historical events. And all this nuclear soup is brewing in the heads of the Kremlin bosses, forcing them to make certain decisions. Second-tier characters such as Kadyrov or Prigozhin have access to the leader's body only through the digest of major events that is put on Putin's table every day. Reading the quotations of the regular statements of these characters, Putin gets an idea of their activities, and they, in turn, can state their astral closeness to the spirit of the pharaoh, who is aware of their deeds and fully approves of them. This is how the miasms are dissolved in the collector. One of these characters, the perennial deputy Andrei Gurulev, announced the need to create a ministry of propaganda against the backdrop of losing the propaganda battle with the West. Literally, of course, you can shout that we are losing a lot. The main problem, in my opinion, is the lack of a unified management of this topic. I would generally create, to be honest, the Ministry of Information and Propaganda. We must work with the same means by which they work with us. What is there to be ashamed of here? Said the deputy. Indeed, if you need Goebbels, say so. Do not be shy. In the Kremlin, all of their own, the same fascists as you are. Meanwhile, on different levels of Putin's vertical there is an understanding that it is necessary to prepare either for a long confrontation, or for the nuclear option as the final act of desperation. The return to the grain deal speaks more about the persuasiveness of Erdogan, who also works with Western leaders. For example, he said that Scholz, who previously took a tough stance against the Kremlin, suddenly changed it, and now advocates the need to find some common ground. But Biden's words that Putin cannot remain in power cross out everything. Washington's hard line to eliminate Putin's regime leaves the Kremlin no options but the most desperate. The impression that the United States is pushing the dictator to try to do something about which he has not bluffed for so long. In Russia, a second wave of mobilization is expected after the end of the autumn draft of conscripts. Two sources close to the presidential administration assure that plans for additional recruitment of people to be sent to the front are just frozen. I don't know the exact timing, but a new mobilization in Russia may start soon, perhaps already in the winter, one of them specified. The second said that the presidential administration decided to use the period before the new year for emotional unloading of the population, but no one believes in the end of mobilization. It is clear that more people will be needed, it is only unclear how many there will be. The decision to play for the long haul is likely to be pushed through by those who do not like the nuclear option. but even they understand that the quality of the mobilized masses is terrible. She is not capable of fighting, and quickly turns into a cargo of 200. This whole meat war is a so-so idea. The Ministry of Defense is working on the issue of creating specialized units and subunits for humanitarian operations. It is assumed that the GUM troops will not perform combat missions. They must deliver assistance to local residents, provisions, water, warm clothes. Stocks of products, fuel, material property will also be created, and the GUM troops are designed to clear rubble and eliminate the consequences of mass deaths. And the creation of just such units hints at the preparation of the Kremlin to use its last trump card in the battle with the West for Ukraine. Become our patrons now and look further in this program. The Russian flag has been removed from the building of the Kherson Regional Administration, but not yet from other buildings of state institutions. The invaders also removed their checkpoints in Chernobivka, Belozivka and on Ostrov in the Kherson region. In Putin's environment, there is a media fight between one pack of the court kennel and another. Kimzov's mongrels with might and main shake Kovalchuk's. They bit Sobchak, now they searched the house of Andrei Karolov. In Chuvashia, a riot of Mobiks continues, who were denied the payment of previously promised money. And without payments from the motherland, Mobiki do not want to kill Ukrainians. The Federation Council is discussing a list of unfriendly copyright holders for compulsory licensing of their product and content. It's time to raise a pirate flag over the Kremlin and declare war on Somalia as competitors in piracy. Inside the cave they are whispering, will Putin still have a direct line or not? Propagandists are crying. The abolition of the direct line will mean that the Kremlin does not have good news for the population. And that's all for today. See the full version of the program on the Patreon resource. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. I hugged everyone. Meet tomorrow on Friday Live. Glory to Ukraine.